Nobody tells you that anxiety doesn't mean you're falling apart. It means a part of you has been working very hard for a very long time to make sure you don't. That is not nothing. That is actually worth understanding. Because you have probably been told, directly or indirectly by people who meant well, that the worrying is the problem. That if you could just relax, just breathe, just think about something else, the whole thing would settle. And you have tried, and it hasn't settled. And now there is the original anxiety, and on top of it, the anxiety about the fact that you cannot seem to stop being anxious. This is for the person sitting inside that. Not to fix it tonight, but to make it make sense. There is something specific happening in an anxious mind that almost nobody explains clearly. The worry is not random, it is not a malfunction. At some point, and it does not matter exactly when, your mind learned that paying close attention to everything that could go wrong was a way of staying safe. It ran the calculations. It rehearsed the difficult conversations. It anticipated the worst outcomes so that if they arrived, you would not be caught off guard. And for a while, or in certain circumstances, that probably worked. Or at least it felt like it worked, because nothing catastrophic happened. And the mind made a quiet note. The vigilance is why. So it kept going. What nobody tells you is that an anxious mind is not an irrational mind. It is a mind that learned a strategy and has not yet been shown a better one. The worry feels like chaos from the inside. From the outside, from a certain angle, it is actually a very organized, very determined attempt to protect you. The problem is not that it is trying to protect you. The problem is that it does not know how to stop. You know what this actually feels like, not the clinical description of it, the lived version. It is the thought that arrives at 3 in the morning about something you cannot change until morning, and probably cannot change at all. It is the conversation you have already replayed 4 times, adjusting what you said, what you should have said, what their face meant when they said that thing. It is the low-level hum underneath a perfectly ordinary day. Nothing is wrong exactly, but something feels like it is about to be. And underneath all of it, something that is harder to admit. The sense that if you stopped worrying, you would be leaving something unguarded. That the vigilance is the only thing standing between you and the thing you are afraid of. That relaxing feels not like relief, but like risk. This is the part that matters, because this is the part that keeps the loop running. It is not just that you worry, it is that somewhere, in some quiet, unexamined place, you believe the worrying is keeping you safe. Your mind is not broken. It learned to do this. And until it is shown, gently, clearly, honestly, that the strategy is no longer working, it will keep doing it. Not to punish you, because it is still trying to help. There was a man who had, by any measure, nothing left to protect. He had been born into slavery. He had no say in where he lived, what work he did, or what happened to his body. His master, by some accounts, once broke his leg simply to prove a point. Epictetus looked up at the man holding his leg at the wrong angle and said quietly, "You are going to break it." The leg broke. He said, "Did I not tell you?" Everyone who knew him described the same quality. He seemed, despite everything, strangely free. Not because nothing hurt, but because he had found, through years of having every external thing taken from him, the one line that could not be crossed. The one territory that remained entirely his. His name was Epictetus. He was a slave who became one of the most clear-eyed thinkers who ever lived. And what he found in that place of absolute powerlessness is the thing your anxious mind most needs to hear. He called it the dichotomy of control, which sounds like a philosophy lecture. It is not. It is one of the most practically useful ideas in human history, and it goes like this. Some things are yours. Most things are not. The suffering comes from forgetting which is which. There is a line. On one side of it, your thoughts, your choices, the way you meet what happens to you. These are yours, genuinely, completely, finally yours. No one can take them. On the other side of the line, everything else. Other people's decisions, outcomes you cannot determine, the future, most of the past, the thing that might happen, the things someone might think, the conversation that has not happened yet. Your anxiety lives almost entirely on the wrong side of the line, not because you were weak or irrational, because you were never taught to find the line. So, the mind does what minds do when they are not given a boundary. It expands. It claims everything as its territory. It tries to monitor and manage and anticipate and prepare for things that were never, in any meaningful sense, available to be controlled. This is the exhaustion. Not the worrying itself, the impossible scope of what the worrying has taken on. There is a particular kind of anxiety that spends 3 days rehearsing a conversation that will last 4 minutes, then 3 more days replaying how it actually went, adjusting the script, wondering whether a different word in the second paragraph might have changed the ending. We are, it must be said, magnificent and bewildering creatures. The dedication alone is impressive. But Epictetus would ask, gently and without judgment, which part of that conversation was yours? Your preparation, your honesty, your care in the words you chose, yours. Their reaction, their interpretation, what they decided to do with what you said, not yours, never yours. And no amount of rehearsal changes that. The worry is not protecting you from the outcome. It's just spending your energy on a territory you were never going to own. Here is something worth sitting with. Make a list, in your mind, not on paper, just quietly, of everything you are worried about right now. The things on low simmer and the things running hot, the small administrative anxieties and the large shapeless ones. Now ask for each, is this actually mine to carry? Not whether you feel responsible for it, whether it is genuinely, completely, finally yours to change. Whether there is something inside your control, your response, your action, your choice that has not yet been used, or whether this worry lives entirely in territory that was never available to you in the first place. Epictetus spent his whole life on this question, not as an abstract philosophical exercise, as a daily survival practice. Because the alternative, treating everything as his responsibility, trying to manage the unmanageable, was a kind of suffering he had already seen enough of. The second list, the things you were exhausting yourself over that were never yours to hold, that's where most of the weight is. That's the discovery worth making tonight. What Epictetus is not saying is nothing matters, or stop caring, or detach from your life and feel nothing. He is saying something much more specific and much more useful. He is saying you have a self. A genuine, irreducible self. The way you choose to respond to what happens, the values you bring to the things that are genuinely in your hands, the quality of attention you give to what is genuinely yours. This self is not at the mercy of outcomes. It is not dependent on what other people decide, or whether the future delivers what you hoped for, or whether the worst-case scenario stays a scenario. The anxious mind has forgotten this. It has gotten so busy managing what cannot be managed that it has lost touch with what it actually has access to. You do not need to stop worrying tonight. That is not the ask. The ask is smaller and more honest than that. Just begin to notice, gently and without judgment, which worries live on your side of the line and which ones have walked into territory that was never yours to begin with. Not to force anything, just to see it. That noticing, that small, clear-eyed act of placing things where they actually belong, is what Epictetus built his entire life around. And he built it from a position of having nothing, which means you are, by any fair measurement, better equipped than he was. The mind that is worrying right now is not your enemy. It is a part of you that has been working without rest in service of your safety, using the only tools it was ever given. It deserves some honesty, not punishment. And the most honest thing you can give it is a clearer map. Some things are yours. Most things are not. Start there. Just start there. If there is one thing to carry from tonight, let it be this. Your anxiety is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that something in you has been trying in the only way it knew how to keep you safe. Epictetus understood powerlessness in a way few people ever have, and from the inside of it, from a broken leg and a life that was not his own, he found the one freedom that could not be taken, the freedom to meet what comes with something that was entirely his. That freedom is available to you too, not as a performance of calm, not as a suppression of everything you feel, as a quiet, honest return to what is actually yours. What is one worry you are carrying right now that, if you were honest, is not yours to solve? You don't have to answer out loud. You don't have to answer at all. But if something came to mind, just notice it. Let it sit. That noticing is already something. And if words feel like too much tonight, if all of this was a lot and you just needed to not be alone with it for a while, leave a moon in the comments. Nothing else required, just the moon. That is enough. It always has been.